Welcome back, everybody, to In the Loop. What's up, everybody? My name is Michael Burpo, and this is the first half of a two-part episode series on the Gen Z consumer. And Alex Brown, VP of Operations at the Smithy Group, and Cody Giles, Director of Integrated Strategy at the Smithy Group, are going to be speaking with two Smithy Group interns, Emma and Jake, about their online consuming and browsing habits. It's going to be a really interesting talk about the differences between Gen Z and Gen X or Millennial or what have you. And it's going to kind of highlight some of those key differences and how you can market to them a little bit better and understand their browsing habits. Again, this is going to be the first half, so be on the lookout for the second half, which will come out next week. And we want to say a very special thank you to Podium for sponsoring this week's episode. This episode is brought to you by Punchmark, the jewelry industry's leading website provider. Join the community of nearly 500 other jewelry stores in choosing Punchmark's easy-to-run and e-commerce enabled website platform by visiting punchmark.com for your free trial demo. And this episode is brought to you by the Smithy Group, a digital growth agency that helps leaders and businesses dream bigger and achieve multi-generational integrity. Through insights and intelligence, digital marketing, and advertising solutions, they help businesses expand their business and grow their revenue. The Smithy Group has helped hundreds of businesses surpass their goals and believe that whatever your business, whatever your story, they will make it matter to your audience. Thanks so much. Enjoy the show.
Well, hello and welcome back to In the Loop. We're so excited to have you here today. My name is Alex Brown. I'm the VP of Operations at the Smithy Group, and we're taking over the podcast today. If you're looking for Mike, he'll be back in a few episodes. But today at the Smithy Group, we're talking about Gen Z consumers. So we're actually joined by a couple of our resident Gen Zers on Team TSG. Jake and Emma, welcome. Thanks so much for being here today. Jake, you are our content coordinator. You're very busy hustling on the team. You're also studying at the moment, which is a double whammy for you, but we're so grateful that you're on our team. And Emma is one of our brand strategists. So if you're a client of ours, you've probably spoken to her as well. We also have Cody, our brilliant Director of Integrated Strategy, co-hosting with me today, and he's got all the facts and figures on the Gen Z consumer. So I'm really excited to dive into this topic. I feel like we've been talking about millennials for a while, which I fit firmly in that category, but actually the consumer, the people who are bringing in the money for the market is really the Gen Z that we have to be looking at right now. So how's everyone doing? Are we excited about the conversation?
Very excited. Alex, isn't it putting into perspective that we're millennials? Like nobody wants to talk about us anymore.
Yeah,
we're on to Gen
old.
Z now. We're old news.
We're old news. Let's move on. Gen Z is where it's at, right? Jake and Emma, how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to give some insight about Gen Z and how we feel about things. So I'm really excited to get started.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm excited. I have a lot to say about my shopping habits. So
I love it. We want to hear all about it. So yeah, the Gen Z consumer, as I said, I think that we've been focusing so much on the millennial consumer, but actually we need to really be focusing as people in marketing, as people who run businesses on what the Gen Z consumer is actually after right now. So excited to dig into that. We're actually so excited that this is going to be a two-part series because we have so much to cover on this topic. We're going to be digging deep into a variety of topics, including types of marketing, what you all gravitate towards, social values, things like that. So make sure you stay tuned because we will be releasing this as a two-part episode to make sure that we really have the full width of discussion that the Gen Z consumer deserves. But before we actually dive into these individual topics, Cody's actually going to kick us off about a few facts about our friends, the Gen Zers.
Our friends, the Gen Zers, yes. So just a few facts I have here. The first one, you may be wondering, well, how old are Gen Z consumers? What does that age range look like? So Generation Z was born between 1997 and 2012. So when we think about it, these consumers are now 23, 24, getting close to 25. So they are current shoppers. A lot of times we think about Gen Z as being teenagers, but they are young adults now at this point, and they actually represent 20.5% of the U.S. population. So they do represent a sizable portion of the U.S. population in the market today. 22% are represented by millennials, and then we have baby boomers that represent 21%. So there is a fair ground and a fair coverage there for Gen Z, even stacked to other generations. A few other points here that I have. It's estimated that Gen Z's annual purchasing power could be as high as $323 billion in the US. Now, this figure can grow up to 4 times when you account for their influence in their households. So how they influence their friends in their household or their parents or their siblings in the household. That can grow up to 4 times larger than that. So don't count them out. They have a lot of spending power, but they're going to spend it carefully and wisely based on their values, which we'll talk about a bit later in the podcast. One interesting topic that I discovered about Gen Z, and Alex, I want to know how you feel about this. The average Gen Zer received their first mobile phone at 10 years of age. I was like 13 to 14 when I received my first phone, but
What? Oh, no, this is
17.
aging me. I was 17 when I first got my like massive brick of a Motorola that had like, I could only use, this is back in the day where you do shorthand all the time because you could only use a certain amount of characters per text. You only had a certain amount of text per day. Man, I'm really aging myself there.
So Jake and Emma, the first question I want to ask you all is, what was the age when you got your first cell phone?
I was in 5th grade. Yeah.
Ooh, spot on.
I was 11 years old, so 6th grade.
So that's pretty on par. You guys were 10, 11 years old. Now, were they smartphones is the question. They had to be, right, with you all?
I had a text phone, but then I also had my iPod Touch. So
The iPod Touch, so big for like the Gen Z young consumer before you got your phone. Jake, what about you?
Yeah, like in 5th grade, I had a little brick phone, but my first smartphone was in 6th grade. After I had shown that responsibility of being a 5th grader, the ultimate responsibility.
I mean, who knows what it looks like now, Alex? You have twins. At what age do you get the girls a phone? It's probably going to be a bit younger now.
I mean, they literally already know how to use my phone. Like I watch them, they're 18 months old and they'll pick up my phone and, you know, I've got Indy swiping to see all the notifications. She'll swipe cross to find the video. And I'm like, how do you know this? So, you know, they're picking up to their ear and going, you know, gibbering away going, hello, like blah, blah, blah. Everything's a phone. So they know how to use a phone already. Like they already know. So,
They're going to bring it over to you and just be like, hey, show your face. Unlock the phone, mommy, so I can get in to play my games and watch YouTube.
Exactly. They're way too smart. Dang it.
Yeah, good stuff. Getting younger and younger. A few other points here. So in a global survey of over close to 16,000 Gen Zers, 66% of respondents said once they find a brand they like, they will continue to buy from that brand for a long period of time. So when we think about Gen Z, there is a relevance there. When they find brands that they resonate with and they enjoy, they're going to be a long time and repeat customer. So something to think about as you're framing up your experience for Gen Z and how you cater to that audience that's really a great opportunity to turn them into a lifelong customer. The last point I'll make here, Gen Z has the highest rate of advertising recall at 59%. So whenever they see ads, they're more likely to recall them than their counterparts. Millennials, Alex, you and I are about 57%. Gen X/baby boomers are about 47%. So Gen Zers, they remember the ads you show them. That leads to more brand awareness. Can be a good thing if you use it effectively.
Do you think that's because they do have more access and longer access to things like smart devices, that's where your main advertising is?
Do you think that it could be? But there's also could be an argument that they're on social media so much or they consume so much media, you would think how much you're consuming you would forget, but that's not the case. They still remember. So they're just primed in the environment that they've grew up in. They can easily call out ads that are fake. So they're more likely to remember the ads that are true. And we'll talk about experiential marketing in just a bit, but I think that could play into it as well and kind of how you shape experiences from a brand perspective digitally and also traditionally.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's dive right into it. Experiential marketing. I do feel like that could be seen as a little bit of a buzzword of the moment as well, or that it has to be some kind of dramatic light experience, immersion to actually be effective. But just give us the top level, Cody. What is experiential marketing?
It's interesting whenever you Google experiential marketing, the first image is of a concert with confetti and like crazy things.
Right.
So it's exactly what someone would first picture is like, okay, if I need to have an experience, it needs to be this huge, humongous thing, but that's not the case. If you have the true definition, experiential marketing is a strategy that engages consumers using branded experiences. Whenever we're talking about experiential marketing, we're talking about either from a digital standpoint or from a traditional standpoint, what experiences are you providing to your consumers to have a lasting impact and to make them recognize and say, wow, that was a great experience. I want to share this with my friends, or I want to come back repeatedly to have that same experience because I know it's spot on. So whenever we talk about experiential marketing, it's about what you're doing to just keep your name top of mind and provide a great experience to your customers.
Yeah, that's great. So let's kick it over to you, Jake and MA. What kind of experiences do you like when it comes to marketing? So you're there on your phone and you see something. What's your personal inclination towards experiential marketing?
I think for me, a lot of different brands that I've discovered on Instagram or whatever other platforms, when they have content that isn't just their thing that they're selling. Like I've found brands that make like really funny graphics that I'll share with my friends, or like talk about really important issues and take important stances on it. That's something that it's like the brand is bringing further than their product. That's really brought me in and given me something more to look for as I'm following them. So I think it's that aspect, but also just like the aesthetics. If your brand has like these beautiful graphics or beautiful images, and even like storefronts, like beautiful, crazy storefronts, it's so memorable to me. And it's not just like a beautiful thing that I like looking at, but I trust them. If they have their act together aesthetically and visually, I trust that other parts of their product and their company have it together.
That trust aspect is interesting. I feel like you're saying they're expressing their personality a little bit. So you're actually getting to know them more than just beyond a shop. You're actually getting to know the personality behind the brand.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
What about you, Jake?
I echo those same thoughts, because I feel like when you see that investment into a culture and into, making the stores and their retail fronts as well as their online presence just look really uniform, it makes me see the investment they made and makes me want to myself invest into their products. And just some words that I'd written down regarding values that I value for companies is inclusivity, diversity, awareness, and authenticity. So I think that branding strategy really assists in communicating those values out to their consumers and the public.
And is this something that, do you feel that is personalized for you? Or so even when it comes to things like aesthetic, MA, you've got a very specific aesthetic yourself. So are you more attracted to other brands that have that same aesthetic, or are you just attracted to something that like they look good and it comes together well?
I think for things that I'm going to buy for myself, it has to be my aesthetic. However, brands that I just follow and respect and appreciate on Instagram, they absolutely have other aesthetics. They're things I would recommend to other friends, totally, just because I admire it and appreciate it. And if they're putting out content that's not even just their branded products, I'm gonna like look to them as an authority. Like, that brand has a really great perspective. I wonder what they posted about this month on this like topic, or if they said anything about this event.
And what about, you mentioned the storefronts, but what about when you actually go into a physical store beyond their social media? You may have interacted with them, you may have seen their social media, but then walking into their shop, what are you expecting and what's going to stand out for you in that, especially you, Jake?
I really expect to see that messaging carry over into the interaction with the staff that you have. I feel like it's super easy to have a mission statement and to have, branding guides and slogans. But when you go in somewhere and you see that really executed through conversations and through just their attitude about how they do things, it's really inspiring to me.
That's so good. I think that's really important as well, because we know for Gen Z especially, you guys are doing so much research about a brand before you go into the store if it's a physical location. So you've been to their website, you kind of learned what they're about, you visited their social media pages. So or you framed up what you're going to expect when you go into the location. Does that match up with what they've conveyed online? Sometimes it doesn't, and that's really easy to call out. Like you're saying, Jake, you quickly know, okay, this is not aligned with what you posted on your website and how you've carved out your core values and what you've told me that you believe in. I don't get that same experience whenever I come into your store. So from a retail perspective, retailers have to think about that everybody coming into their store more than likely knows more about them than they ever have previously. And there's those standards that you've set, you truly have to live up to.
Yeah, definitely. It's 100% like your digital storefront is your storefront these days. Like, you're not necessarily getting the traffic always walking past your storefront. You now have the opportunity to reach people who might not necessarily just walk past your store, to really engage and capture that. But then the tension there and the tricky part is making sure that that's a consistent flow. So there's not some kind of jarring experience when you've had that interaction online versus going into the store, to your point. Now, given you guys are online so much as well, you're kind of used to paying virtually with Apple Pay, your digital wallet, things like that. You don't necessarily have a card at hand anytime. I know I have my card details saved in my digital wallet, so it's really just a press of a button. I don't even need to remember anything. So what's it like for you when you go in store? Do you still want those touchless experiences, or are you looking for, you don't mind whipping your card out when you're in the store?
Yes, absolutely. I love using my digital wallet. That's like the sound that it makes on my phone when you click it. It's like, it's just so pleasing to me.
A little act of dopamine.
Yes.
The sound is so much better than the act of swiping a card or inserting a card. That little cha-ching, like it makes all the difference.
It's like, I want to go spend more money.
Okay, retailers, take note right then. This is how you encourage people to spend more money. That little shot of dopamine. What about you, May?
I don't super care that much. I usually just use my card when I go places still. So I would say that's not as big of a deal to me. There are different stores that I've been in where you can like scan QR codes and like learn things like really quickly, or like different integrations like that. Just again, they feel super modern and it makes me trust the brand more. Like, oh, they have this technology. They probably have a lot of technology behind their product and behind the research of their product and stuff like that. And I don't think about that perfectly every time, but it's kind of more on a subconscious level.
That's such a good point for that. Just really quick, Alex, because I think restaurants had to do this really well with COVID and having the touchless experiences. And if you go to a restaurant and you sit at a table, they're not providing you menus. There's a QR code that you scan there. So we've talked with retailers about how do you, in a situation where let's say the store's busy in a particular day, someone comes in, you're a jeweler, right? And they're over at the bridal showcases and no one can get to them just yet. But what if you had a QR code there? They could scan that and start reading about your bridal experience before a sales team member has had a chance to come over and talk to them. So it gives them a bit more to do versus just standing there and waiting for somebody. That does provide that experience and what we're talking about. That's a good point.
Yeah. It also frames up questions that they can be prepared to ask, because I know when I go into a store, sometimes, recently I bought an electric scooter and I went in, I'm like, cool, what do I need to ask? Like, I don't know anything about these things. Like, what should I ask? So even having something that encourages people to then seek out and ask the questions, because that barrier's already been broken. That's really good. But I've loved how you framed this around trust, MA, because I do see that, and we will speak about values even some more. And Jake, you've already pointed that out as well. But values are so important for the Gen Z consumer, and I think that's trickling into the other generations as well, more and more so. The values that brands have are actually really important to us as consumers. So having that trust factor behind them and actually trusting the people behind the brand and trusting that they know what they're doing seems really important. So I love that point. Just quickly before we do jump into the next topic, I'm really interested to know what platforms you guys are really on and shopping on and doing your research on.
I would say that for discovery, it's absolutely always on Pinterest. All the Pinterest knows really well all the colors I like, the jewelry I like, the fashion, everything, my exact aesthetic, just because I've spent so much time curating collections on there. And so every time I open Pinterest, I see lots of things that I think are beautiful, and it's just a really quick, easy way to find new brands. I can even take brands that I know I like and scroll up on Pinterest and find new brands that are similar or new pieces of jewelry that are similar. And Instagram, I feel like I open a page and you have like one eye shot worth to show me something that I think is beautiful, that I think is émé and unique. And if you don't, like, I'm out, like I'm not interested. And on Pinterest, I feel like I can open it and see 10 things that I think are beautiful immediately. And there's just not another platform or space where I get that from a discovery standpoint.
Now, I'm really interested to hear you say Pinterest, because I feel like there might be a little bit of a misconception that Pinterest is dead, that it's for the craft hobbyists and not for anyone else. But you're actually saying, as a Gen Zer, that you go on there and discover new brands, things that you like specifically, that it's actually really a search engine for you.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. It's it's an aesthetic visual search engine. Like it's so awesome at like recognizing down to like colors, down to like, I don't really like squares. I don't like straight lines. I like swirls. Like it just knows that. It's really, really amazing.
Oh man, I love that. I love that it can see exactly what you like and then points you in the right directions for certain things. Jake, what are your experiences with Pinterest, and is it something that you gravitate towards?
It's something that I honestly don't gravitate towards. I would like to give it a try, but I feel like most of my discovery comes from influencers that I follow on Instagram and on YouTube. I feel like YouTube is a very large resource for me because I love seeing products in use and I love seeing them in motion and not just in static images. For example, I recently purchased a Peloton bike, and the first thing I did was watched 10 videos on how it works, what's it about, what kind of content they have. And I just love visually seeing people using the product in effect.
I mean, both these examples speak to the personalization, though, of what you're looking for as a consumer. So for you, you really want to see somebody specifically using the product and how it works and visualizing how you're going to fit into that space as well. And for you, MA, it's having that visualization of like, this is what I love. Does that fit into that as well? And so I think that's a really good point to be made when we go into who we're reaching and where we're reaching them, because the more that we can personalize it and make you envisage yourself with that product, or that product is a part of your aesthetic and how that fits in and looks and feels for you guys, that's a really important piece of the marketing aspect. I do want us to jump into the next topic around our values, because that is going to be really important. But before we do that, we're just going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsors.
Our clients know that it doesn't matter how great your website is if people can't find it. Podium helps you get found and chosen by making it easy to get reviews from your happiest customers, just by sending a simple review request through text. In fact, with Podium, every step of your customer journey is powered by text messaging, so you can talk to your customers on the channels they prefer. Start the conversation on your website with Podium Web Chat. Set appointments, answer questions, and close deals all in the same thread. When it's time to pay, just send a request over text so your customers can pay in seconds. And now that you've got a happy customer, send them a review invite over text too, so you can rise up the local rankings and start the cycle all over again. With all of this, plus powerful integrations and features in one consolidated inbox, Podium is your tool for customer communication. Send a text, get more done. Punchmark clients will receive 25% off when they sign up for Podium. Learn more at podium.com/punchmark. Thanks, back to the show.
All right, so now we're going to talk about values, which I'm very excited to push into because I do think this is a big part of the Gen Z consumer. And Jake, you've actually already touched on this. So let's start with you. What kind of values do you really hold or expect a company to hold at their core mission, vision, and execution all the way through?
First, I would like to start off with saying that I believe that our generation is hyper aware of the world and what's going on, and we want to be engaged in what's happening. And so I feel like we extend that to brands as well, and we want to be engaged in what's going on. So in my personal opinion, I feel like I want a brand to be inclusive to who I am, have a diverse voice, and just be authentic. You know, I want to be able to hear what they're saying and feel like it's coming from their heart and feel like it's coming from a place of truth.
How do you connect those dots? Because especially with social media and a lot of the social justice issues that are happening over the past year, or even with COVID, you know, someone might put a post up on social, but how can you tell that it's authentic?
I believe when the purpose really comes behind highlighting the issue and not behind commercialism, it really speaks volumes to the people behind that brand. And it makes me want to engage with them even more. Even though not necessarily they're marketing a product, they're marketing a vision to me. I feel like I have that shared value with them and I want to engage with them.
And are you more likely to buy a product from them and, you know, you're engaged and you're following them? Are you then likely to take the next step and actually purchase from them? Or are you still basing your purchase on the product itself?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That is a big determining factor for me, especially when there are comparable products on the market. Even if one is marginally better, say from a less supportive company with less voice, and it's better, I would almost always go with the one with the better values, just because I know that even though the product might do, things a little less than my expectations, I would know that there was a sound state of mind behind it.
Even there's research that shows that when it comes to values, you're willing to pay a premium for a company that does hold those values. So Jake, what you're saying, even if, let's say, the product is a bit less in terms of features, but maybe it still costs more because you are fully aligned with the brand and what they stand for, you're willing to make that premium purchase because it aligns with your core values over the other company that maybe it doesn't do that quite as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you likely to see something from that brand and then sit on it for a while before you then go and purchase something? Or is it in your research for a particular product that you're like, oh, this brand, I like what they're saying, I'm going to buy from them immediately?
I feel like it's definitely a contributing factor. It's one of those things where it's like when comparing brands to each other and the products they offer, that is definitely a big step up for me. And it makes me feel trustworthy to their products and what they offer in the future too. So let's say I decide to buy a product from a brand that aligns with my values. It will have me further inclined to continue supporting that brand and to even ignore the other ones.
Yeah, interesting. And what about you, MA? What about you and the value sets that you see in the brands that you follow?
I think for me, sustainability is huge. I want to make sure that this is not hurting other people, that this is well made, this is sustainably made. And to me, sustainability, if a company cares about the sustainability of their products and just its impact on the earth, that tells me that they actually care about the quality of their products as well. So like outside of like the world impact, I think this product is probably better made because it shows that they have a care for the little details. So I really look for that. I also look for just like what they think about people, how they care about people. That's all really reflected in their missions and what you see on their social. When I'm finding a brand that I'm going to spend more money on, that I want to latch on to, I want to be able to view them as an authority. That's really like what brands are, I feel like, to me, is just like a personality that I can like respect and integrate into my personal style and personal lifestyle. And so when they take these like important stances, that's something I want to see. I want to be able to agree with and wonder what they think about things. So
I have a stat to back that up for what MA is saying. 64% of Gen Zers will pay more for eco-friendly products. So that really aligns with what you were saying, MA, about sustainability and looking and to seek that out. And it exactly ties back to what Jake's saying too about paying a premium for that. So it's not a detriment if you focus on eco-friendly and sustainability, that really could add value to younger consumers.
I think it's also interesting, like, when you shop, there's this certain like rush you get after you like find something really awesome and like shop. And for me, it's kind of like if I buy something and shop from some brand that I know has a kind of a bad reputation, isn't very sustainable, has some bad articles about them, I don't really get that same feeling of like contentment and like satisfaction after buying from them. Whereas if I buy from somewhere that I know is sustainable, I get this new product, I'm like, this is awesome, it was made out of X, Y, and Z, and it supports this, I feel like that rush is even greater.
I love that. It's it's the cha-ching of the digital wallet, right? But it's like continuing on after your purchase. Right. I have one last question for you, MA, is how do you know, it's going back to that authenticity, like how do you know that what the brand is saying is actually what they stand for and they're not just putting it out there as part of their branding to look good?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I trust them. Like I trust what I read on websites. I definitely do my research, and especially when I'm really about to add to cart, like I'm going to go to the about page. I want some facts. Like I do want some rational stuff behind that. I want some numbers. I want some blog articles and some authority on some of those things in order to trust them.
Yeah, it's making sure that the information is accessible, and then even the continuation of putting that mission out, because you never know when someone's going to see it, and it's all well and good to put one post out there that states your mission, but not everyone might see that. And then what are you posting after that, or what are you putting on your website that aligns with that as well is really important. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. This is just part one. We're going to be sitting down and digging even deeper into a couple of other topics for part two of our series. So make sure that you stay tuned, listeners. I want you to make sure that you hear Jake's and Emma's thoughts on our other topics around Gen Z consumership. So thank you for listening in today, and we'll see you soon.
Hey, thanks for listening. Leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, and remember to subscribe. It really helps us grow. Thank you so much. See you next week.